Hi, this is John again, the owner and developer of VectorDecks. In this tutorial we're going to go over the edit capabilities you'll have with all the rails on your sun deck, but within the VectorDecks frame tool. Each rail will have its own set of parameters that you can adjust and change, but I also place all those controls and parameters within the frame tool. That way the changes you make at that level, the parent level, will impact all the rails on the entire deck at once. You're going to find those controls within VectorDecks Frame Object Information Palette, where I've created a button called Sun Deck Rail Settings. Go ahead and click on that. This window will pop up, and on the left side you'll see a sample rendering of the rail that's currently on your sun deck. I rendered it in OpenGL so you get the different colors involved. And then I have a front and side view. And on the right you're going to see a panel with three options at the top: Custom Settings, Post Objects, and Rail Objects. Any changes made on this right panel, any of these parameter changes you make, will have an effect on the views here. For example, I'll show you, I'll just click this and make it a 42-inch rail. And you see immediately it gets updated in the left side, showing you exactly how it looks. You're also going to see a button at the top here called Use Rail Objects. And that gives you control in these last two menu options above to apply these different options available in them. If you click Use Rail Objects, you'll see a little update here. Because what's happening, it's going to take the different options that you select in these last two menus and apply them to the view. But we're going to cover that in our next tutorial. This tutorial we're going to go over all the different dimensional capabilities you have in the custom settings. Now at the top you'll see these two buttons for your rail height. I have it either 36 or 42. I didn't make this an actual dimensional field that you can enter the actual dimensions. Most governing agencies, those are pretty standard. It's either going to be a 36-inch or 42-inch, so a simple click made that quicker. And you also see it gets updated automatically in these views. Now these next group of fields, you'll see actual dimensions that you can enter. I found myself, as I was entering these dimensions, that updating slowed the whole process down. Every time I exit a field or entered a dimension, there was that little bit of delay that didn't help in speeding the process up. So I turned that automatic update off, and after you're finished entering the actual dimensions you'd like, you would then have to hit Apply Dimension Changes to have those update the windows. I'll show you an example here. Let's change the Rail Post Max on Center. Make that 72. And let's make these pickets 1 inch width, 1 inch depth. Now you have all these different fields that you could change. You could hit your tab key and it'll go through it. And they're pretty obvious. Rail post width, rail post depth. These are all the different actual parts of the rail that you can make these physical dimensional changes to. Now you see in these windows nothing changed. I held that off, and then once you click that Apply Dimension Changes, the windows will update and it'll show you those changes. Now I'm going to go ahead and set those back to their defaults. So we had 1.5 inches. And the depth 1.5 inches. See, nothing changed again. I hit Apply Dimension Changes. Now these next controls you have will be these check buttons. And as you check them and make changes, your windows will be updated back on the fly. The first one involved here is called Picket Opening Fixed. What this involves is above here, as we made any of these dimensional changes, particularly with like the picket width or these max on center, I have it drawn on the sun deck where the opening between all the pickets from the beginning to the end is equal all the way through. Now if you decide you wanted to make the openings a fixed width, Then the difference, in order to appear properly, is to be made up by the two end openings. Let me show you here. I'm going to change, let's change this to, let's say, 4.5. And I'll apply that change. And you see again, it adjusted itself, but it made each opening exactly the same all the way through the rail. But once I click on that picket opening fixed, it's going to make the dimension a fixed dimension based on this particular field, and then it's going to make up the difference on the end equally. I'm going to go ahead and turn that picket opening fix off and set this back to that default. Now this next checkbox, for those of you who want a round picket instead of the square picket, I made that very simple. Just go ahead and click on that. Again, it's going to equally span based on this opening. You can still have that fixed picket option. You also have another field here where you could manually enter a radius dimension. When you do, if you do type in any dimension, this, because it's a dimensional field that you manually enter, it won't update here until you click that apply dimension change. So now you see the picket is 1 inch instead of that 3/4. I'm going to set this back to that 3/4 and turn off that round picket option. Now this last check button control you have here is called flat panel only, and what that does, it's going to remove all the pickets that are in the rail between the posts and replace it with just a flat panel. I'll check on it, show you here. There's nothing applied to this. It has a non-texture. It's just a flat panel that you're going to have the dimensional control of the thickness. Remember, any changes made in here, because this is a dimensional type field, you'll have to click apply dimension changes for it to update. But in the textures here that you have, any available texture within this texture palette, you can apply to that. Let's apply, for example, a glass finish. So now we have a clear glass finish that let's make that 1/4 inch. And apply that change. So you're going to have just a sheet of glass. And when you render it in the final rendering type environment, you'll see that reflectivity and everything that's applied to that glass. You can pretty much have any, like I said, any of the textures that are available in here, and you'll be creating more. I'll show you in future tutorials how to apply those and add those to this list. And then once you select that texture, like here's a lattice finish, or you can even have like a board-on-board finish. Whatever texture is in this particular menu, you have the capabilities of applying it to the surface of that panel. So not only can you create a picket and type environment here, but you can also come up with all different kind of patterns and designs you want and then apply it to that particular panel. And go ahead and turn this off. It'll be defaulted back to pickets. Now over here you're going to see some drop-down menus to apply different classes or different textures to this particular components. Here's the rail post. So you just need to go in and scroll down to any of the finishes that are involved here. I'm gonna let's make this, let's say, pressure treated, and then you can change your top rail. I'm going to make these different colors so you'll get a good understanding how everything's changing in here. Now the bottom rail, we can make that a gray, and then the last is the pickets. Let's give that a black finish. So you see how it updated all the different individual parts to the textures that are applied in these classes. But at the top you'll notice a button too, a drop-down menu that says set all classes too. So you have the ability to set each class to an individual class and color, or you can come up here and apply it to all of them. Let's make them all pressure treated. So it'll convert all these classes and change the color and the texture that you want automatically. You don't have to go in and make any of those changes manually. I'm going to go ahead and set this back to white. Now in the next tutorial, we're going to go ahead and utilize all the things that we've learned here with respect to the custom settings and create a custom rail design. But we're also going to show you how you can insert in the center of every rail panel or just certain rail panels a special finish, a special design. But we'll go over that in the next tutorial.